Well, we start this week in North Dakota, specifically with Grand Forks Red River. Jason, you know how hard it is to find good control in high school pitchers. And so when you've got a staff that's got several guys who can not only throw hard, but throw strikes, that makes you a pretty tough team to beat. That's exactly the situation the Rough Riders find themselves in.
Well, that's the key to this season so far, is finding depth on your pitching staff, because you got to find enough arms to get you through these games early in the season. We had a chance to talk to Grand Forks Red River about their deep pitching staff, and here's what Coach Mark Variano had to say.
The offense will certainly be far behind the defense. With pitching is even more paramount then. If we throw strikes like I know we can, we're one step ahead of the game right now.
Well, we've always had a really deep pitching staff since I've been here since high school. It's always deep. We have some guys that are throwers, some guys that are spot up, velocity. We have plenty of them in the team, so we have a good rotation.
I think we're pretty strong. We have, I think, maybe the most depth in the state of any team for pitching, and our defense does a good job helping us out, keeping the runs low, so then we can score runs and win more games.
I bring the velocity for the pitching staff, and the other pitchers are more like they have better off speed, they mix it up more, they're slower in general, but mainly mine is velocity.
I'm more of a spot up kind of smart pitcher. Location is where I'm not going to blow by anyone by no means, but I have, occasionally. We'll see.
I'm a junk baller. I don't throw very much heat, and I use a lot of off speed to get hitters off balance and let our fielders do their job.
And again, those three guys that we're talking about here with Grand Forks Red River, Dylan Default, Blake Chemnitz, and Zach Mahoney, all in their own way, bring something a little bit different. We heard them say, I'm a velocity guy, I'm a junk baller. I locate over, I don't necessarily blow people away, but I throw strikes. And that again, we mentioned it earlier, is such a huge piece of it. If you can get guys out or force them to put the ball in play, you're going to be in a great spot, and each one of these guys can do that in their own way.
Well, it's about having that mix of different pitchers to be able to throw at people. Teams can't get used to the fireballer, and then all of a sudden you bring in a guy like Blake Chemnitz who's throwing junk at you, and then you bring in a guy like Dylan Default, who's got tremendous location. I mean, last season, Grand Forks Red River had 4 of the top 6 ERAs in Class A, and that was with Taylor Steen, of course, one of the stars of the league last year, but it wasn't enough to get to that championship game. So they're in the mix this year. They're in the mix, and the small handful of teams that can go all the way this year, and the pitching is going to be the reason they can get to that mark. And I think those 3 pitchers are going to end up in probably the top 5 again in wins, in innings pitched, and in ERA as well. So pitching, not a problem. Hitting, on the other hand, that's what Coach Mark Variano is a little bit worried about, and a lot of teams are at this point in the season. There's not a lot of teams that have the hitting refined so far. So we'll see if Grand Forks Red River can take that next step with their bats.
Well, on the same token, Coach said, while they may be behind it, he said the fact now, again, that he's got this pitching depth that other teams don't have, the fact that, especially with the weather and the fact that these guys are getting out and seeing live pitching for the first time, it always takes a little bit longer for the hitters to get going. You can see that in Major League Baseball at the beginning of the season. Yeah. And so the fact that he's got 3 guys out there that he can depend on each and every game, that's a serious plus in the Rough Riders' favor.
And that's what Zach Mahoney said a little bit too, is getting outside, it's going to be a little different than pitching inside, and it's going to take us a little more to get used to. Zach Mahoney, another guy who's a transplant, he pitched a lot in the St. Louis area, just came to Grand Forks probably 4 years ago, so he's made an adjustment too from playing 8 to 10 months a year to just pitching, whenever he can get outside. So getting that under their belt is really going to help the Riders going forward.
We saw something similar to that a couple of weeks ago when we introduced you to Dimitri Zafra from Minot, who's made that adjustment going from Florida to Minot, North Dakota, and so that's the same type of thing. So a lot of things in play, but at this point, it looks like the Rough Riders are going to be in it for the long haul and going to be a contender throughout whenever this tournament actually comes to be, and not a lot of games until we get to that point. It's hard to believe we're already there. We've been talking baseball all that long. Well, with a couple of signature wins over Sioux Falls schools, Yankton has joined a short list of surprise Class A contenders. We will profile the Bucks right after this.